So, just a couple of months ago, something sort of odd and bizarre happened. It's not the kind of thing you would usually see, but it was very, very much counted as like a really, really big diplomatic snub. And that was when Viktor Orban went to America and he went to see Donald Trump. But when you are sort of, the leader of another country, you think you might go and see the president. Maybe even you go see like Anthony Blinken, like, America's version of the foreign secretary, etc. But no, like Orban didn't even do that. Like he didn't even go anywhere near Biden. He immediately saw Trump and then left. That was it. Now versus Anthony Blinken, who came very recently to the UK. Not only did he see Rishi Sunak, but he also saw Keir Starmer as well. Now, of course, we are in a potential transition period at the moment, and it is quite normal for you to go and maybe visit the person who might win. So, you doing that, especially during election year, is not an uncommon thing to do or even see happen. Like I say, we saw Anthony Blinken visit Rishi Sunak and Keir Starmer here. Now, recently, we have just had David Cameron go to, he's done the whole NATO conference thing, and he's now off to America. And he has just met with Donald Trump, but he's now off to go see Joe Biden in a couple of days as well. Now, why would you go and see Trump? Well, first of all, Trump is really controlling the reins of the Republican Party. From what we know, he has told the MAGA Republicans, do not let that Ukrainian aid bill pass. And as a result, this bill that should have been passed 6 months ago has now caused a 4-month shortage of where this funding should have been, coming in. It is causing big problems with the Ukrainians on the front line. They have got, rationing sort of going on. You've seen Europe, really, the European states sort of have to sort of step up here and try and find, more and more artillery shells. One of the things that I always find shocking is the past past couple of times that this happened, I think it has been Lithuania almost, searching through the cupboard, just going, "Oh, look, we've got all these artillery shells. There you go, Ukraine." There's a lot of people suspecting that Lithuania might be buying artillery shells from another third-party country and then giving them onto Ukraine and just saying that they're theirs. We don't know how true whether that or not is yet, but I suppose we'll find out one day what it is. But this is yet another clear example of a country where it can put pressure onto a government to sort of do something. It is very, very becoming an increasingly bigger issue for the Congress to not pass this, especially with other Republicans who really want to see this bill passed and sort of really understand the need to get this bill passed. But you've also got the threat, remember, Marjorie Taylor Greene has already filed the paperwork to, well, eject the speaker should it go forward. And all she needs to do is bring it to the floor. And of course, chaos. And last time it lasted, 3 weeks? Would she even dare do something like that again? I think she's crazy enough to do it, but we'll see. But hopefully, maybe, probably not, but I would like to think that this is yet adding more pressure on the Republicans to pass this, because David Cameron, say what you will about him, but I will give him this. He has called the Republicans out for holding up this bill and saying, hey, you've got to do this, because if you are holding up this, you are risking a whole other series of bad events by you holding this up. And it is going to be looked on as your guy's fault and no one else's. So him calling them out on that, honestly, really, really good way of putting pressure on them. And it has been reported quite extensively in America's media about this. So we're going to have a look at that today, what they've said about this. So we're going to have a look at that. But before we do that, as always, please do look at please do click the like, the share, the subscribe button if you are new. Of course, down below there is the Patreon page. There's the Buy Me Coffee link where you can buy me coffee. There's a YouTube thank you button, and of course, there is the YouTube Pony Club as well. And of course, let's go cracking on into this. But thank you very much to everyone who does help and support the channel. So this comes from The Hill. UK's David Cameron heads to Washington for further Ukraine talks after meeting with Donald Trump in Florida. So, British Foreign Secretary David Cameron is in Washington on Tuesday to press for senior Republicans to unlock more money for Ukraine after meeting a skeptical Donald Trump in Florida. And yeah, easily, easily his, biggest thing. It is Trump that is directing this. Let's make no mistake. It is Trump that is directing this. It is telling them not to pass it because obviously Donald Trump's big plan, I can solve this war in 24 hours. We know ultimately what would happen is, from at least what we've seen and everything we've heard, he would sell Ukraine down the river. Just once again, I know there's a lot of stuff saying out there, Donald Trump, is not going to win, that he's lost a lot of stuff, but it's still like so worrying that he's there and to have to hold your breath until November. It's a long time to hold your breath. Even when you are seeing polls that Trump isn't going to win. It's like at the moment where we've got all these polls showing that the Tories, aren't going to win the next general election. But as I've said before, when it comes to that, never underestimate a general election. They can be wild and crazy beasts. Who knows what can happen? Remember, Theresa May went to a general election based on a poll that, she would win a massive majority, and look what happened to her. So always bear that in mind. But anyway, back to this. So Cameron says the victory for Ukraine is vital for American and European security, but the former president and presumptive Republican candidate is now a critic of continued US support. And lawmakers now aligned with him are now holding up the aid package for Kyiv in Congress. The UK's Foreign Secretary also confirmed at the meeting and said that it was standard practice for government ministers to meet allied nations' opposition leaders in election years. Again, it's right. Anthony Blinken has done the same as well. It says here, Secretary of State Anthony Blinken met in February with the UK Labour Party leader Keir Starmer, who was the favoured to become Prime Minister in the election this year. When Cameron was Prime Minister in 2012, he met the then Republican President candidate Mitt Romney. British officials did not say how the meeting went. I'm sure Trump will tweet about this, or maybe he has, maybe he hasn't. But it'd be interesting to see how the meeting went. We'll see. Cameron and Trump do have several notes of difference of opinions in the past. Cameron called Trump's proposal during the first presidential campaign to ban Muslims from the US of divisive, stupid, and wrong. Cameron was the British Prime Minister during the UK's 2016 referendum, or the European Union, a move that was opposed, but Trump enthusiastically supported. Cameron resigned after voters narrowly rejected his call to remain in the bloc. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak unexpectedly brought Cameron back into the government last year as Britain's top diplomat. In Washington, Cameron's plan to urge US lawmakers, to approve new aid package for Ukraine, warning Congress that he's now putting security of the West at risk by holding up the funding. And he's due to hold talks with lawmakers, including Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell, and he's hoping to meet Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, whose role is key. So that is right, and he's putting pressure on them to do this. And I think it is very, very much needed. Give credit where credit's due. Just like, I think Ben Wallace being very, very key for a lot of the early support that the UK gave Ukraine in the very, very early stage of this, I think was key and was critical for him having that support. And I think now seeing Cameron sort of say the same things, picking up that baton and saying, hey, look, you are risking a lot of further security concerns if you do not pass this. There's a lot of bad other domino effects we could see on this as well. What does China then think about, oh, well, if you're not going to support Ukraine after so long, maybe then we can invade Taiwan, and maybe knowing that after so long you're not going to support them. There's a lot of consequences, like I say, this could sort of roll on from, and it's good to see Cameron sort of doing this. Again, I know people have some very different opinions on Cameron, but I'll tell you what, when he's doing stuff and saying stuff like this, absolutely go for it, Cameron. Congratulations, you're doing something good. I've always said it before, even when a Tory does something good, I think they should be at least praised for that. So Anyway, it continues. In a video posted last week on Twitter, Cameron said that Speaker Johnson can make it happen in Congress. A 60 billion aid package of aid is now bogged down in the House of Representatives of the populist conservatives now seeking to block further funding for the 2-year conflict, and some mainstream Republicans demanding concessions on border security before supporting the bill. Well, here's the thing. They have done that. They have even tried that, giving concessions. Every single time the Republicans have ignored it because they want, like, Ukraine, and they want the border to be a big issue at the general election. So they are stopping on purpose all this stuff happening. And I think it's so damning to them that they are stopping this stuff from happening during that time. So ahead of the trip, Cameron said that success for Ukraine and the failure of Putin are vital for American and European security. This will show that borders do matter and that aggression does not pay, and that countries like Ukraine are free to choose their own future, he said. The alternative would only now encourage Putin to further attempts to try and redraw European borders by force. We will be then hearing very clearly in Beijing, Tehran, and North Korea, which again, I'm glad he is saying, because why then would Beijing, Tehran, and North Korea also not be encouraged to redraw their own country's border as well? So it is good that he is sort of drawing attention to that. This is the continuing worry and things that people have said, that if you do this and you are seen to sort of let Putin win, what message then does this send to other people? We saw this with Armenia and Azerbaijan, where Azerbaijan went and sort of took a sort of a piece of territory they had always sort of wanted back from Armenia, and they saw this war as an opportunity to go and do it, and they sort of succeeded in that regard. We are seeing signs in Serbia potentially on there. You've got obviously Venezuela, we've talked about at the moment, Korea, Taiwan. There are lots of problem points where people go, oh, guess now we can have the green light to go and do that territorial expansion we've always wanted to do. So as you can see, not, paying attention to this, not caring about what happens in the other parts of the world is going to radically affect other decisions that America will have to make. And I'm really glad that Cameron is doing that, but we'll see. So Cameron is also due to discuss the Israel-Hamas war, also including efforts to try and reach a sustainable ceasefire and get more aid to Gaza. Again, good that he's doing that as well. Talks with officials, including Blinken and National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan. The UK is now sending Royal Navy ships to the Eastern Mediterranean to try and bolster efforts to try and open a maritime aid corridor between Cyprus and the temporary US-built pier in Gaza. So, again, Cameron doing, a good job as Foreign Secretary. I can't disagree with him doing these things because it is much needed. This is what you want to see a Foreign Secretary do. So, good for him for doing this and calling out the Republicans. I'd like to see him go really hard if he does get that speaking with Johnson. But of course, you have to be a bit more diplomatic about these things. I wouldn't be if I was in Cameron's position. I'd be absolutely going after Mike Johnson if I got in front of him and I made sure that cameras were rolling. I would make sure you would go super hard into him, really embarrass him, and really call out the Republicans for what they're doing, and just really embarrass them. But we'll see. But anyway, one can dream that he would go really hard on that. But of course, he's a diplomat, got to be diplomatic about these things, of course. But as always, thank you very much for watching. Let me know what you think down below in the comments. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.